are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily represent those of WOAI and iHeartMedia.
Welcome. This is Sidebar. Sidebar, a frank discussion on life, the law, and liberty. Sponsored by the LaHood Norton Law Group. And now, your objection sustained. Your hosts, Karen Klaus and former Bexar County District Attorney, Nico LaHood.
1200 WOAI. This is Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we start, I want to ask everyone listening right now to share and to like and set up notifications for the show every Saturday at 9 a.m. And while you're at it, you might as well set up a time for you to listen to R-Rated Christianity. That's Wednesday night, streaming on social media. That's at 8 p.m. We as Americans, we have so much to talk about these days. And if you like being part of the conversation and you want it to continue, please consider going to sidebartv.com and contributing to the show. It's so easy. You'll find it very easily right on the front page. And it'll just be a big help to us in continuing the show. Meantime, each week, you got to join us for former Bexar County DA Nico LaHood, trial lawyer, managing partner of LaHood Norton Law Group, and also Georgia Rougeau, scholar, former chemist, and pharmaceutical researcher and director. Let's see, try to wrap it up every single week. Kash Patel is in. Wemby is out. Elon Musk showed up at CPAC waving a chainsaw. The president sat down for an interview side by side with Elon Musk. And I would say there's probably been a war of words between President Trump and Ukraine President Zelenskyy. Thank you so much. Oh, there's apparently some traffic problems. And so we got Nico on the phone, George in the studio. Nico, is it because of ICE?
Well, I'm not worried about ICE taking me out of the country, but I am worried about ICE on the road.
No kidding. They're everywhere.
The whole highway is shut down. George, a 10-minute drive turned into a 40-minute drive.
Right. Oh.
I should be there soon after a couple of U-turns and a little demolition derby here, but we're good. I should be there shortly.
Well,
Okay.
You're competing with your studio version, so you got some big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
With everything that went on this week, I wanted to start with Zelenskyy because I was thinking with everything that's going on in the country this week, right here at home, whether it be Doge, Elon Musk sitting down for an interview with President Trump or anything else that's going on. There are some new polls out that's showing not so great news for Trump. I was thinking, is this the right time for President Trump to be picking on Zelenskyy? Is that something that's top of mind for anybody?
Who's picking on whom?
Well, you're right. You're right. It is a back and forth, and it's still going on.
Nico, you've seen the back and forth between the two of them. It's hard to tell when it. I was just trying to figure out what exactly started it. Can you think of a point in your view when this actually started?
Well, I tried to figure that out. This has been a week. We've been prepping for trials for next week and the week after. So I'm going to act as an ignorant interviewer today a little bit more than normal. But I was trying to pinpoint that down because I know that some media outlets are saying that Trump started it by calling him a dictator. Then other people say, well, but Zelenskyy was critical of President Trump and backed out of the deal and was complaining about not being at a meeting that wasn't about peace. It was just making sure Russia was able to come to the table, apparently. And then, it does seem like Trump has some animosity to Zelenskyy, in my opinion. This is from the outside looking in because I do not claim to be an expert. I think where everything went off the rails in my quick assessment this week of what happened, and you guys please correct me if I'm wrong, is when Trump made the comment that Zelenskyy or that Ukraine started it. That to me, I was trying to trace back the back and forth. It seems like Trump was quick to draw, to pull the trigger, so to speak, in criticism. So it seems like there was an undergirding of frustration that he's had with them for a while, because when he went off, he went off. But it seems to be like everything went off the rails in the criticism of Trump is when he claimed that, or made the comment, I don't know if that's his ultimate claim now, when he made the comment that Ukraine started it. Yeah,
he said, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
Yeah, look, I'm very excited about this exchange back and forth because I think finally, for the first time in 3.5 years, we actually have hope for peace. Does that sound
That sounds like a
paradoxical,
good deal, right?
and I think that I actually you can question my judgment, but I actually read The Art of the Deal, and Trump's been pretty open about this in his first administration, but I think this is how he's done business. He whose side is he on? And the answer is yes. And this is what Trump does. He keeps everybody guessing all the time, and he does it on purpose. And the reason I know that is far because I'm some genius, because I'm not. It's actually in The Art of the Deal. You can't tip off until it's time, and by that time, the enemy, if you will, or your opponent won't know what hit him. And I think this is important because if you think about where the West has been over the last 3.5 years, Russia has been the Antichrist. Literally, Zelenskyy has walked on water, literally between the raindrops, particularly a wonderful metaphor for this rainy morning. But if you notice, that's how Zelensky's been pitched. He's been pitched as a kind of hero. And Trump has literally flipped this. And I think Nico's right. I think there's something going on that's deeper. And I think you're right, Nico. Remember, I don't think Zelenskyy did himself politically now. Let's set aside the Ukrainian negotiation tactics aside for a moment. Nico, you might remember Zelenskyy showed up here, I think, like a complete dumbass. Shows up here last year and he essentially campaigns for Kamala Harris.
You're right.
So if you remember, he's on the podium in Pennsylvania, a swing state, and he's lobbing bombs at Vance at that time. Zelenskyy, yes. He travels to the United States during a campaign season. He obviously thought Harris was going to win, and he threw his lot in with her.
Okay.
Now, the idea that this isn't going to sting, particularly Trump, who is gracious right after he humiliates you. The idea that this isn't going to sting. So this is in the backdrop. And then there's some judgments that Trump is throwing out there about Zelenskyy and how he's sort of negotiated the war, at least for his part, over the last 3.5 years. And we can talk about that. I think that's important, Nico, not so much because it's important by itself, but because I think there's a turning point here. I think we're finally at a point where we can actually see the dust clearing towards settling this ridiculous, despicable, horrific war.
One of the things that came up, which kind of made me laugh, because, Trump is all about polls and where he is in the polls. And when he told Zelenskyy that he was at about 4% approval rating, I kind of laughed. And I was like, all right, are you kidding? This is a battle of the egos, or he knew how to get to him? Just like you were saying, he knows how to negotiate and how to get his way. And do you think that was one of the ways that he was trying to do it?
Yeah, I think that he's simply throwing out there the possibility, and it's a distinct possibility that Zelensky's not as popular as everyone claims him to be. Zelenskyy, if you think about it, I mean, like Trump always says, this guy's a former comedian and not a very good one at that.
Right.
The reality is that Zelenskyy was elected with 73% support in early 2019. But he had a specific platform that he ran on. Nico, you might remember he's out there saying how he's going to be effective, I should say. He's going to be effective at ending the war or ending tensions with Russia, and he's going to bring an era of peace with Russia, and that he was going to end corruption. We didn't remember that Zelenskyy came up through the corrupt system. He is a product of the system, and Ukraine is consistently one of the most corrupt nations on the face of the earth. And we have no evidence that that's changed whatsoever.
Okay, we are going to take a break right now, and we will continue after this because I want to ask a few questions about Zelenskyy and why this even matters. This is Sidebar. Join us online. We have plenty of places, but you can find it at sidebartv.com. 1200 WOAI. This is Sidebar. Everybody's in the house now. Thank goodness. Everybody's safely in their seats.
Ice could not hold me down.
Is that what it was, do you think?
They couldn't get me. Too elusive.
Do you think they closed down 281 because of ice? Because it was real.
Oh, it was legitimate ice. I mean, not the organization. I mean, it was ice. I mean, icy conditions. I mean, there was cars. One car had wrecked.
Oh,
and if I would have known, I would have gone the back way. But by the time George texted that 281 was shut down, I was already on the access road cussing.
So speaking in tongues.
Yes, I was speaking in tongues.
And just for your knowledge, Nico, I do the garden show.
Well, I forgot.
No, I know. I was trying to answer you at the same time I was talking.
Well,
and
put
David
the cucumbers down and you please answer me.
David was wondering why I was like texting while he was talking about stuff. I'm like, so sorry. Hey, by the way, thank you, Ray and Janie and Alex and James and everybody that has already joined us on online right now. You can find it at sidebartv.com. So Zelenskyy, here we are. I wanted to also say that, yes, President Trump was poking the bear, but also J.D. Vance was joining in on that. Did you notice that he was also?
Well, George, I had something when you were saying when I was driving in. What principle and art of the deal is this? I understand don't let anybody know, but when you take the position, and this is a sincere question, it's not a criticism, I'm asking. When you take the positions he has, because I haven't heard the criticism both ways. I mean, I heard a very short clip of him saying, yeah, he shouldn't have invaded. Because, I don't think it's questionable. Russia invaded. He almost seems like he was almost justifying, it seemed at least, that he was justifying the invasion because of years in the past. It sounded, interesting to me.
I find that this is a Trump, and I'm excluding present company, that this is a disease that the media has as it pertains to Trump. And I know we're going to get into the Elon Musk-Trump interview because Musk does a great job walking through what this Trump derangement syndrome is. Funny. You guys got to listen to this interview. It is super funny. It's serious.
So bad.
I was laughing out loud. It was that funny. I love the way Musk describes Trump derangement syndrome, and I think this is a symptom of it. Trump says something, and they take it out of context, and it literally sounds like he's saying exactly the opposite. Trump is under no illusions. He knows that Russia is, at the end of the day, in terms of this war, it is the aggressor. The point that Trump is trying to make is broader than that, and you got to give him that context, which is that Zelenskyy took a really bad thing and made it worse. That's what he's saying, that he exacerbated it. And now what we're seeing is sort of the unfolding of that argument. And Vance is making it and Rubio is making it. I think people should go and watch the interview between Marco Rubio and Catherine Herridge. It's brilliant. It's helpful. It sheds a lot of light on what's going on here. She asked him the same question, essentially.
Marco Rubio is excellent.
And he did an excellent job sort of decomposing Trump's thought process. And he started by saying what we were just talking a few minutes ago. It didn't help that Zelenskyy shows up over here and starts campaigning against Trump, thinking that Harris was going to win. But also during the Biden administration, there were newspaper articles, he said, where it was reported that literally Biden and Zelenskyy got into shouting matches.
I heard about that.
And the reason for that is because Zelenskyy was being presumptuous. And presumption is a pathetic quality, I think, where it's basically theft, where you assume things that aren't yours. And he was basically imposing upon the United States. And Rubio said it would be nice to get a thank you.
Yeah.
And here, you're basically saying that we're obligated, and we're not obligated to do jack what, right? So, and it's true. The United States position, interestingly, and Rubio kind of expounds on this in other places, and Trump knows this, and the media doesn't delve into this history, as you know, but this is important. The United States position towards Ukraine has been that it's really sort of, their problem. It's not really our problem. That's really been our position. This goes back almost 100 years. The king of liberals, FDR, literally within minutes of being inaugurated, basically said that Russia was under the legitimate control of the Stalinist regime at the time. Now, why does that matter? Because while he was literally after he was inaugurated recently from 1932 to 1933, the Holodomor happened, which is a mass extermination of Ukraine peasants by Russia at the time, because Russia wanted to take control of the agricultural output of that region. We're talking 4 to 7 million Ukrainian peasants dead because of Stalin. That would have been a really good time for America to step in and pronounce some sort of moral message. We didn't do that. As horrific that was, FDR said that remains the purview of the Ukrainian people and Russian people, as atrocious as that is. Now, I guess I'm asking the question, when it become a moral imperative or a political imperative or any other kind of imperative for us to, for we now, the United States, to intervene in these kinds of affairs, much less send hundreds of billions of dollars of military assets
that
over
train
there.
has left the station, though.
But that's been our position. And that history, I think, informs why now? Why is this so imperative? Why has Ukraine been such a critical piece of the Biden administration's foreign policy?
That's I think that's a separate issue on how Trump is responding to this or dealing with this situation, in my opinion. I mean, again, I think
what Trump is saying is there's no moral imperative. There's no political imperative. There never has been. And I want to go back to that.
I got that. But we're here. We're $2 billion, $100 billion or whatever it is, how much money we spent there that nobody knows where
Not
half
even
of it is
Zelensky.
at.
Yeah.
Zelensky. So, I mean, I think two things can be true at the same time. I think Putin can be a communist dictator, murderous thug. Does anybody disagree with that?
No.
Okay, so nobody disagrees with that. I think people want to hear Trump say that, but I don't know if that helps negotiations. But so I get that. You don't show your hand, but he has shown his hand for Zelensky, and it sounds like the things that you've informed me of him. I didn't realize he campaigned for Harris. I know Rubio has expressed frustration with him, just even saying, "Hey, get back to me on this one negotiation point," and then he gets in the press 2 days later that we pulled out of this deal, and he said, "Wait a minute, you're being insincere and you're being actually deceitful about this." So Zelensky is a. I mean, he shuts down. He arrests his political opponents. I mean, he shuts down churches. I mean, this guy is no, angel. I don't know why we have this infatuation with Zelensky. I never did. I think he's a weird dude that. I mean, I'd be embarrassed of the videos out there about that dude, but that's another story. So, I mean, Trump seems to have taken the opportunity to all out criticize him. And like I said, I sensed there was an undergirding that there was this history there between Trump, or the way he felt about Trump. I mean, the way he felt about Zelensky.
Yeah, I wanted
I'm trying to understand what principle in the art of the deal. That was my original question. I'm sorry, George. What principle in the art of the deal is it where Trump goes after one side?
Because Trump is playing mediator, and it's not an effective mediation tactic to come in and sort of tip the scales in the favor of one party over the other. And that is exactly what the United States has done. That is what the United States has done. I think what he's trying to do is balance the scales.
Okay.
And he's sending a message to Russia that, hey, we're not here to do the bidding of Zelensky. That's his starting position. Now, Zelensky made it easy for him because of the things that you just said.
Got it.
But this goes back to actually 2019. When he was elected on the platform that he would bring peace to the Russian debacle with Ukraine, and that he would end corruption. And frankly, he's managed to do neither. And you can say, well, how's that his fault? Russia was the aggressor here. His fault is because by the time Russia invaded in 2022, there had been 3 years of Zelensky's presidency. And so I think what Trump is saying is, how effective were you in those 3 years? And he's saying you weren't very effective. Now, we got to go back into that history. I don't want to get deeply in the weeds here.
Did Trump misspeak, or was he wrong about saying that you started that? At least the inference that Ukraine started.
I wouldn't have used the word start.
Okay.
Exacerbated? Absolutely.
Okay.
I think that's totally legitimate, and there's a very good argument to make for that. Look, what was Putin's red line in all this? And we got to get back to basics. What was Putin's red line?
NATO?
Yeah. In 2014, the Obama administration seemed to be okay with Ukraine joining NATO. Kind of a big problem.
Yeah.
Biden doubled down.
Explain why. Not everybody understands why, because when I found out why, it gives a little context.
Yeah, please.
Briefly.
Right. So basically, you have the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, and you have essentially the capsizing of the entire Russian economy and the USSR in 1991. So we emerged victorious. Praise the Lord. What we ended up doing there is we ended up exploiting that victory. What do I mean by that? Well, what we did, and we should not have done, is we basically brought in or aided the bringing in of a dozen nations on the Eastern European Russia border front into NATO. And so now basically you have a pretty militarized border along Russia. This has been a very sore point with Putin. Can you blame him? I don't think I want missile deployment stations along my border.
Okay.
And so Ukraine is sort of like one of the last shoes to drop. And so pre-2014, he's saying, this damn well better not happen, and it won't happen on my watch.
Putin said that.
Right. And, this guy, he has been loud about that, and he's been out front about that. This is no defense of Putin, but we got to call balls and strikes, as you say. Putin is a murderous thug. The world would be better without him. That's my view. Yeah. But on this issue, he has a legitimate point.
I think that's a important. Just because someone's a piece of crap and it doesn't mean that everything they say, they could still be right about an issue. And so you're kind of isolating this one issue about NATO and Ukraine.
And this is the position that Trump is basically coming from. Trump is ceding that to Putin. Putin has been clear about that. He said it was a red line. He said it back then. And so Obama, of course, had fake red lines. We know that. Putin invades Crimea at the southern tip of Ukraine, the peninsula. He invades it. He's had control of it since 2014. By the way, that's not going to change here. That's off the table. I think most people agree that you're never going to go back to a time when Crimea is part of Ukraine again. So that's pretty much been ceded. What they're fighting over is other territories in Ukraine where Russia is involved right now. But the bottom line is, Putin said, this is a red line for me. We blew him off. We kept talking about Ukraine joining NATO, like he's going to be okay with yet another nation, which, by the way, is traditionally Russian. Yes, that's right. There's a historical claim between Russia and Ukraine. It goes back to the 17th century. That's fairly inarguable. And Putin saying, over my dead body, are you actually going to be able to be in a position to literally deploy on what is formerly Russian territory military assets against me at any time? That's never going to happen. And so what happened was Zelenskyy comes in, and he comes in on this platform of creating peace between Ukraine and Russia. And when things don't go his way for a bunch of reasons we don't have time to discuss right now, he starts talking about joining NATO again. What that does is accelerate the war time frame. And Putin said, is that right?
And there's so much dynamics, Karen. I mean, so you have Biden almost giving him permission to do a minor incursion or whatever it is versus an invasion. And people forget, I really, because I think my position is interesting because I'm not an expert. I mean, George obviously is well versed in this, in the history there. I wasn't. So I'm really coming into a case looking at the evidence, and I'm asking questions. When I evaluate a case, I come and I say, ooh, that doesn't look good for us, whether I'm prosecuting or defending. This seems strong for us. This appears to be a certain position we would take, but let's explore it to make sure we don't get egg on our face in the middle of trial. And that's how I'm really looking at this situation. And when people are criticizing Trump, I mean, I just think it's a stupid middle school attack. Like, he's intimidated by a real leader because Putin's really strong and he wants to pick on what he appears to be the weak guy. Well, Zelenskyy, I mean, he's not weak. I mean, he has shown some grit through this whole process. Okay, check. We'll give him that. But he's not Putin, and he's not going to win. But let's not forget that Russia invaded Georgia when Bush was in office. He invaded Ukraine with Obama. Didn't do crap when Trump was in last time. So, I mean, you would have thought he would have done that. And then he invades Ukraine when Biden's in office. So, I mean, to think that Trump is his puppet, it really falls, to me, objectively falls on its face.
But just to say, he understands where Russia's coming from, but he's fully aware that Russia is our enemy. He's just understanding the position that they're in and wondering if that was not the position that we... what would he have done?
Both sides, both sides are going to lose and both sides are going to gain. Look, here's the deal. Ukraine can't win this war. It can't win this war. And the only reason Ukraine's still alive and there's a pulse is because the West has been pumping billions and billions of dollars into their military machine, et cetera. Some of it we can't account for, but that's another topic. And
for me, I mean, I know we're going to go to break here in a second, but for me, it's almost like Ukraine seemed to be a little reactive as well when they found out that the money train is going to stop. Yeah. I mean, you have all this money going in. It's very presumptive. It's assumptions like they have a right to it, and then it's going to stop. And so then they have to. It seems like he's reacting because he's manipulated the country before, our country before. So,
okay, we are going to take a break, but we will be right back with more on Sidebar.
San Antonio's news, weather, traffic, plus breaking news 24/7. This is News Radio 1200 WOAI from the GiveMeTheVin.com Sell Us Your Cars studio.
Good morning, I'm Eric Lycom on News Radio 1200 WOAI. Breaking news, a 6th Israeli hostage has been handed over from Hamas in Gaza. Details coming up. First, traffic and weather together.
From from the WOAI Traffic Center.
We're on I-10 westbound at Hildebrand. We have an accident that has the 2 right lanes blocked right now. We're seeing a small 5-minute delay. 281 northbound at Summer Glen, we have an accident that's been cleared out. And over on 35 northbound, the off-ramp to McCullough is closed due to a vehicle fire. I'm Alexis, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
On our way to a high of 39, it's cloudy now and 34 at the WOAI 24-hour weather center. Our top story. Hamas has handed over a 6th hostage to the Red Cross as part of its ceasefire agreement with Israel. The IDF says the Red Cross identified the person as Hisham al-Sayed, who was released today after more than a decade in captivity. He's a Palestinian Bedouin citizen of Israel who was kidnapped in 2014 after crossing the border into Gaza. 5 other Israeli hostages were released earlier today. In exchange, Israel's expected to release about 600 Palestinian prisoners being held in Israel. Texas lawmakers talking about boosting teachers' pay in public schools.
Texas ranks about 15th in the nation in starting salaries for teachers. But for our experienced teachers, we rank 40th.
Plan laid out by State Senator Brandon Creighton would provide $5,000 and $10,000 pay raises for teachers from smaller districts and $2,500 and $5,500 pay hikes for those in larger districts. Jim's Restaurants has been ordered to pay $4 million for injuries they suffered when plate glass window in the booth they sat in shattered and fell 2 years ago. Bexar County jury found the restaurant negligent. News on demand at WOAI.com. Our next update, top of the hour, breaking information as it happens. I'm Eric Lycom on San Antonio's news, weather, and traffic station, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
This report is sponsored by Lear Capital.
Our financial system is cracking under pressure. Your retirement is at risk. Take control now. Lear Capital is offering a free Sky High Silver Report and Precious Metals IRA guide at BetterNestEgg.com. Don't leave your future to chance. Go to BetterNestEgg.com.
1200 WOAI. There's too much to talk about, but I do want to wrap up the Ukraine situation because now I'm finally getting a bit better picture after you explain this. But I still wonder about Putin. I mean, how do they stand right now? Because they have been at war with Ukraine for 3 years now. I mean, what has it done for them?
Both sides have massive vulnerabilities, and even though Ukraine's position is completely unsustainable, and they're only alive because the West is pumping money into them. Russia is in a sad state of affairs as well. Their economy is in shambles. Putin is not terribly politically popular because of this either, as well. This is not sustainable in the long run either. And so Trump recognizes that, and he's trying to give some credence to the fact that Putin just simply doesn't want Ukraine to become a NATO member state.
Yeah, and to me, to George's point earlier, Alex, I was really trying to understand this. I mean, it has been very overt. I mean, we've been in this proxy war for a while, ever since Biden's there.
Yeah.
So no wonder. I mean, again, I'm not defending Russia. Putin sucks, but no wonder he hasn't come to the table. So all of this, could this have been a way, to George's point, to kind of balance the scales and bring them to like they did in the Saudi? I mean, they met over there, and this wasn't. They were in like Rubio and that envoy was saying, look, this wasn't negotiating a settlement. Of course, all parties are going to be involved. Rubio's doing a stellar job, by the way.
You're absolutely
this guy is showing presidential, demeanor, leadership. I mean, so is JD, by the way. I'm telling you, Vance, Rubio, but that's another story. He's doing a great job. But this is just saying, hey, will you even talk to us? Because if you know someone's trying to destroy you and giving money to your enemy, you're giving half the peace sign.
Absolutely.
F you. We're not doing anything. So this was more of a, hey, this wasn't us. You know, it wasn't our leadership. Let's resolve this matter. Come to the table. Yes, we'll come to the table. Okay, let's establish the rules of engagement. Now let's bring
it's working.
Ukraine into the deal.
Working. It looks hopeful, Nico. And this ties directly to us. The reason why.
What's the answer? The critics out there, because I know that they're out there. And again, I'm really learning as I'm going along. So I'm asking questions because I think these answers need to be shared.
Let's do it.
But what's the alternative? I mean, what are you going to say to the critic that it says, Trump doesn't know what he's doing? Okay, fine. Give me some evidence. He just talks off the cuff, because I've heard the criticism. He doesn't know what's going on. He thinks everything is a deal, like a business deal. This is different. Lives are at stake and all this other crap. Okay, great. That's fine if you can back it up. What's the alternative?
No,
keep doing this?
No, that's exactly right.
Keep sending our taxpayer money over
exactly
our own
It's not going to happen. No one's going to go for that anyway.
That's the issue. Americans put Trump in power, not just because he was going to revitalize American prosperity economically, but because this war has to end, and the two are tied together. We have sent over, and whether it's the $200 billion number that Marcus Rubio is throwing out there, or Trump's $350 billion. Look, I wouldn't be so quick as to say that Trump's wrong about the $350 billion. Excuse me. I think if Doge has uncovered anything, it's our accounting practices aren't exactly precise.
Yeah,
right.
So okay, let's go with the $200 billion. That's a lot of money. We could certainly use $200 billion. We're $1 trillion, $1.1 trillion now deficit every single year. That's not cool. So let's step back here for a moment. This has immediate economic impact as it pertains to the United States. And I love the deal that they brought to Zelenskyy. I mean, this is what Rubio and Vance brought forward. If we can get into a joint venture agreement where you can essentially pay back the United States for these hundreds of billions of dollars that we've put out there. And how do you do that? Allow us to come in and allow American companies to come in and tap into Ukraine's vast deposits of rare earth minerals.
That is amazing.
Now, that is not going to happen. Now, the moral elite is somehow positioned, oh, that's terrible. I can't believe Trump is doing that. He's taking advantage of a war-torn country. Excuse me, I don't know why it's moral to get ripped off. I really don't get it, or to not get paid back. It's not like we haven't provided Ukraine with something. So Trump is simply saying, this is unsustainable. I got to go back to the American taxpayer because I owe them that. I've got to go back to the American taxpayer, and I have to at least be able to say this is transactional. Yes, we are in this with you. We're going to continue to support you, but you need to pay us back. And the war will end how? Well, first of all, this can't happen with bombs dropping on people. So Russia wants this to end. Their red line is Ukraine's not going to join NATO. That happens to be Trump's position as well. He doesn't see the point. And Russia knows that. Check. So that's Russia coming to the table. Putin's already said he doesn't want anything to do with Zelenskyy. He lost respect for Zelenskyy, in his words, back in 2019, when Zelenskyy couldn't even shore up warring factions inside Ukraine that were fomenting for more war. And so I don't want to talk to Zelenskyy, says, I'll only talk to Trump. So it's not that Putin loves Trump. He doesn't love Trump, but he fears him. And that is a very useful element.
Which is not the narrative. The narrative is that Trump fears Putin. See, everything's backwards.
I know.
I mean,
isn't it weird, though, when you look at all of these relationships, whether it be with Putin, Zelenskyy, and how Trump carries himself, and then you switch it to America, and then you see all of his appointees and how he carries himself around them, and more importantly, how they carry themselves around him.
Mutual respect.
But there's something different about Elon Musk. And that interview, I think, showed a lot.
I think I saw most of it. I think I saw how long was it? How long? Because there was only like 11-minute segments they put out there.
Maybe an hour. Was it an hour?
It was 44 minutes? Okay, then I saw 3 of them. So look, from all the things that I'm observing, they seem to genuinely like each other.
I know.
There's a genuineness there. When he says, I saw the portion where he says, President Trump is a good man. I've never seen him do anything unethical or dishonest or mean or cruel to anybody. He's generally a good man. And then, of course, you're like, I kind of like that. I like the way that sounded. Well, of course you did. But I mean, who wouldn't like that? But just let him say it.
But Musk strokes him because he knows Trump likes that.
It looks genuine. It doesn't look. I don't know if the richest man in the world needs to stroke anybody.
But he idolizes him almost. I mean, I think
it seems there's an admiration.
Yes.
And it seems to, and it seems that Elon knows President Trump in a way that is not what the public thinks of him. He's gotten to know him, obviously, and you see Trump. I mean, what the left interprets as weakness, and I didn't like how Trump was sitting down and they're this unelected person. I was like, please. I mean, every president has advisors. He's an advisor. I mean, first of all, Trump's a dictator and a fascist and controlling everybody, and now he's weak. I mean, you pick your poison, man. Either he's a puppet or he's a dictator and a fascist. You can't have both. And I know it's like a chameleon, an onslaught on Trump. I get that because Trump deranged syndrome, as Elon said, is real. What did he say? It's like taking a shot of methamphetamine or cocaine. I don't know what he said. It was hilarious.
I can't wait to watch that part.
With rabies.
Yeah, mixed with rabies. Yeah, and then he actually interpreted it.
Funny as hell.
He actually did a skit on it, but it looks like there's a genuine respect, and Trump respects him. Trump wants to take credit for things, but he respects intelligence, high IQ people. He respects people that are great at what they do, and he has no problem. As much as you want to criticize him for the attention he likes to get, he has no problem giving other people attention.
And
he really doesn't.
And the way he
You have to
framed
be
that
fair.
was genuinely funny. And you're absolutely right. Before he said he was a good man, I love the first sentence. He says, "I love the president." That's what
He
Musk
did say
said.
that. Yeah, I remember that.
I love the president. I just want to be clear about that. I think President Trump is a good man. He's been unfairly attacked in the media. It's truly outrageous. And at this point, I spent a lot of time with him, and not once have I seen him do anything that was mean or cruel or wrong. Not once. That's what he said. And then he says that he genuinely enjoys. He says, "Look, I'm basically tech support for this president.
Yeah.
That's what I am. Basically tech support for him. That's what I do." And then Trump joked and said, "Yeah, I mean, about the IQ, because he's got quite a team of people. I really respect them. They're all 180 plus IQ." And he goes, "I mean, they dress worse than Elon does. Can you believe that?" And he goes, and Trump says, "Look, I tried to find somebody smarter than Elon. I just couldn't find him, so I had to settle for him."
That was amazing.
I mean, it's just, I love it. I think you're right. There's a mutual admiration.
Yeah.
The media trying to split them up. I think it's obvious that it's not going to happen.
No.
They have mutual respect for one another. They're aligned around the important goal of saving money. I've said it last week and I'll say it again, Nico. I think Doge is quite possibly the most important government operation going on right now. It's absolutely essential. Trump recognizes for what it is. It gives him access to information there's no way he would have had through any other means. And so I think this is very vital. I think what we learn mostly from it is that this isn't going to end. This is a key prong to Trump's strategy to tackle our economic woes right now. Think about this for a moment. They're claiming that they saved $55 billion in the first month. Now, if that's all they do, that's $650 billion a year. That is an awful lot of money, considering we're spending about $1 trillion just in interest every year.
Yeah, but then we're in a deficit. We're $2 trillion in deficit. I mean,
so I think that's conservative.
Let that sink in. People don't realize that because we throw at first when someone said billion, we're like, wow, billion, that's amazing. And then someone started floating around trillions. We started getting into the T's, and we're going to get into gazillions if we don't stop this. I mean, 1 trillion seconds, you guys have looked this up before. We've looked at it, is 31,700 and change years. 1 trillion seconds is 31,700 years plus. Let that sink in. That's insane.
It can't. It's too much.
I mean, and we're in debt 36 of those. So do the math. And then we're running in a deficit of 2 of those every year. A country, as Elon said, can go bankrupt. Our benefit is that we just keep printing money. And then that leads to inflation, too much money chasing too fewer goods. And then you have all that problem, and that happens. So, I mean,
that's right.
So someone's got to do something. So yes, it's not enough, and it's only a drop in the bucket. That's the left's mindset. The criticism of wanting to stop wasteful spending and fraud and deception and theft and why is that? That's a good thing. And now how do we do it? And what classifies itself as that is another story. But that's what Elon is doing. He's an advisor, and Doge is serving a purpose to the president. And the president made it really clear that he's the one calling the shots, and Elon was right there saying, "Look, I'm not doing anything inappropriate. I haven't asked for one thing, and whatever the president says he's going to do, I'm here giving him information." That's what it is.
They have the same sense of humor, and that's what I love so much. And they finally met their match when it comes to the funniest things on earth. Okay, so he's doing a great job. Elon's doing a great job, but did I read something about a poll that shows the president is losing numbers and everybody? Well, we're going to take a break right now, but we have to discuss that and how that even came out. Remember, get online right now. Go to sidebartv.com. We're going to take a break, and then we'll be right back with more on Sidebar.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today. 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
Now.
This is Sidebar. Remember, go to sidebartv.com because we will continue after the show at 10 o'clock or a little bit after to just continue the discussion. But I must say thank you for everybody right now that's already online. I'm looking at Facebook and we do have several things to discuss still, but I keep on wondering, did I read correctly, incorrectly? Are the poll numbers going down on Trump? And if so, what do you think is the reason?
Well, look, I'm going to take it in stride. This very few polls that are saying this, maybe one or two of them. I'm focusing on the Reuters Ipsos poll that basically said that his disapproval rating is increasing. And from, literally in the hours he took office, his disapproval was 41%. It's up to 51%. And that his approval started out at 47% literally after the inauguration. And then about a week later, it was down a couple of percentage points. And now it's down to around 44%. So 47 to 44%. I take that with a grain of salt, but I've seen the Washington Post do a similar poll. There's an element of truth in there that I think Trump needs to be wary of. And that is that Americans elected him with great expectation to put a dent in our inflationary status right now. And it is an absolute fact. And I'm seeing the comments from Mark Antoine. Mark, we love you, but when it comes to economics, brother, I'm sorry, you are completely clueless. You need to go back and look at the Congressional Budget Office. You need to look at the numbers that have been put out by Biden's own government, okay? The reality is that when Biden took office in January of 21, the average inflation in 2020 was 1.2%. It was 1.4 when Biden took office. In the following year, it spiked to 7%.
That's right.
In the following year after that, it dropped a whole 0.5%, that's 6.5%. And now it's still twice what it was when Trump left office. We have a serious debt, hyper-debt, and hyperinflationary cycle right now, and it's very hard. This poll is reflecting people's concerns that they are not seeing a decrease in prices fast enough. Now, that's understandable. A week is too long. The prices of fuel are through the roof. You've heard about the egg issue. Eggs between January 24 and January 25 went up 153% for reasons actually that fall flatly on the shoulders of Joe Biden's USDA policy as it pertains to egg production. Get that into some other time. So Trump is being saddled unfairly with that problem. And obviously he's been in office for
30 days.
30 days. And so that's a legitimate argument, but people are worried. And I think they're keeping it out there in the forefront that we're still worried about the economic direction of the country. And we really need some relief. And so what I'm saying is Trump needs to shore that up. Now, praise the Lord. I think that he's put some things in place that have to do with lowering the cost of energy, and that affects everything. Trump is going at it very intensely, and I think that's great news. Nico, I'm just saying it's a vulnerability.
Well, there's no way he's not looking at this. He has to address this because perception is reality, and then reality is even more of a reality, as I say. And so if people are not feeling the economic relief of the Trump administration, now I don't know what time period and what lead time it is fair to give to any administration when you come in. I mean, obviously, over 70% of people said that Trump is doing exactly what he said he was going to do. I don't know if this influences that as well, about the fact that he hasn't changed the economy. And I get campaigning, and you make promises, and there's some hyperbole, and it shouldn't be, but there is at times. And Trump is a great marketer, and he says things over and over again. But we're going to fix things. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. I have not seen a lot of retort from the administration, I guess, from a strategic messaging standpoint. I don't know if the press secretary or if anybody has said anything about this. I'm sure they've asked.
Great question.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd like you, since you are our expert video analyst. There is a clip.
And that's a shot that I don't read. Thanks.
And Jeff, I can't. No, that's actually not a shot because I don't watch enough videos. Jeff, look this up for me, please. I hope my memory serves me right, but I thought I saw Trump over the weekend, last weekend, on the way to the Daytona 500, and he was approached by the press. This dude does interviews everywhere. I mean, this guy is not afraid of the press.
24/7 also.
Oh, yeah. He'll take any question at any time, as opposed to Biden, who spent 40% of his presidency on vacation. Trump takes questions about this egg shortage. And Trump said, yeah, well, we have a supply problem. And how's that my fault? I mean, I literally just got in office. And so he does this mini press conference and he talks about economics. I think he needs to do more of that.
Yeah.
He says, look, we've got a supply problem. All right. And for those of you who aren't aware, and it remains an issue, there's a horrific infectious pathogen that grabbed the hold of migratory waterfowl, ducks and geese, a few years ago. And what happened was this got into the poultry chain. And so what does the United States Department of Agriculture do? I mean, you get a duck or a goose anywhere near a poultry farm that has the sniffles, and they will literally wipe out the entire flock of the farmer. I'm not exaggerating. They will do what's called a depopulation, which is a fancy word for kill all the or smash all the eggs. And so under Biden, the United States Department of Agriculture literally wiped out farm after farm after farm.
Isn't it 200,000?
Complete overkill.
10 million.
They killed 160 million chickens.
160 million.
Yeah. 160 million chickens, wiped out a significant portion of the egg-laying hen population.
To stop this spread.
Right. And so I'm sitting here, and this is, of course, entirely foolish. Now, the new agricultural secretary is coming in and saying, that's nuts. That stops today. I mean, you need to look at the infectious populations, not the chickens. And so even healthy chickens were being wiped out. So Trump brings this up.
But then he needs to bring it up more then, because obviously if it's affecting polls, and he's real big on polls, and he's fine. And whether he believes them or not, or whatever, or how he takes it with a grain of salt, but it influences him, and you can tell because he brings them up a lot. Then he needs to look. He's got a different apparatus than he did last time. I mean, you have even a begrudging media on the left that will welcome his surrogates, and he has wonderful people that can talk and debate and answer questions about stuff like this. I think he needs. I mean, I would think that he would make a kind of a media circuit or tour of discussing this issue and what the administration is going to do.
Okay, so we're in agreement here. I love it because that's what I was proposing is that he needs to do more of that. Advance is doing great in that regard. He's talking economics. Between the two of them, I think they can do a really great job. And what Trump did, I think, was brilliant. Is he tied this to energy prices? What the hell do eggs have to do with energy? I love it. And here's the deal. A significant portion of the average farmer's budget is the cost of diesel fuel. So Trump installs what's called the National Energy Dominance Council. And they have one goal in mind and one goal only. And that is to eliminate the red tape that basically, sludges the machine between getting a permit and actually drilling for oil. You want the price of gas to go down and go down quickly. You got to do something about crude oil supply. Make sure there's more oil supply so the price will go down. So Trump installs this council, and they're taking serious steps to accelerate this. If he continues to do this, it'll definitely affect eggs. It'll affect everything because before product actually gets to a shelf in the supermarket, it has to be transported there. So I think that's the key. He shows signs that he obviously gets it, but he's communicating it. And so I really think
increased disapproval tied to this.
His increased disapproval is it comes down to people feeling like prices are not going down fast enough.
All prices, not just eggs.
Prices in general. Prices at the gas pump.
How can his polls go down in only 30 days in office?
I don't think that we should take this.
People are fickle, Karen.
And I don't think that we should take it seriously in the sense, oh my goodness, this truly is a polling dynamic. What I'm saying is that this is a worry in the back of the mind of Americans. And while they're giving Trump grace, he needs politically, he's got to shore this up.
Yeah.
This is absolutely critical. It really is. And I think that I'm telling you, brother, if we can actually get back to drilling, if we can actually get refineries back online, if we can increase the supply of oil, there's the benefit that we don't just increase the supply and the price will go down.
But how long will that take? I mean, when you think about that, it doesn't just take, you don't overnight just drill You know, I mean, I know there's companies that are set up to do that, but how long does that take to feel that in the market? I understand that energy controls prices in general.
It's not like flipping a switch.
Yeah, I mean, as you don't walk. I mean, the reality is this. I mean, that's got to be in his mindset or his plan. And how long does that take?
Well, I think the reason why it hasn't been fast is because it's been gummed up by the permitting process.
Well, he's in control of that.
That's right, exactly. Okay. And so this council, this National Energy Dominance Council, is responsible for eliminating that red tape so that companies can get to drill and drill yesterday.
Has he been doing that?
And that's right. He has been doing that. And the point is, he's only been in office for a month, and I think that it's going to take a couple of months to see this. But the good news is that I think it's not going to be incremental. I think it's going to be substantial because fuel affects everything. And then there's the silver lining in all this, getting back to America being an exporter of energy, the idea that now you have all of this oil supply and you can actually sell it on the open market, another source of great revenue. So, and then there's Doge. I mean, I love the idea that, think about what's happening here. Why is it inflationary? As you know, and as you've said many times, we have way too many dollars chasing way too few goods. And so Doge is critical to fighting inflation. Why? Because the more you eliminate waste, the less the White House has to be printing money in the basement. That's the point. Yeah, but the money printing operations are over.
But if the president ends up doing what they're actually talking about at the end of the week, what I picked up on, was that I guess they're going to give a rebate. I mean, they're not looking at it as a handout.
I wonder if that's actually, I mean, it's a great idea. The idea it's going to be $5,000 checks they're thinking to get back because, you know, the logic seems simple. I mean, we saved all this money and we're finding,
and they're taking,
and there's 20%. Much more to find. There's much more to find.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, wasn't that just kind of like fake money anyway, though? I mean, wasn't it just money that was printed?
But it's money that's being dished out. I mean, it might be getting printed, but it's actually going somewhere. And so they're stopped. So he's saying, my understanding of that
don't get me
Nico,
wrong, I'll
Nico,
take it in a second to help you. Yeah.
That's the rub right there. Where's it going? That's the issue.
Well, you mean the money
was printed. It was allocated in a portion. Appropriated is the word towards certain outcomes. And the reality is that a lot of those outcomes never happened. So when you print money and they don't go towards something that produces value, you basically have an artificial currency. I mean, you got money that's sort of floating around out there, but you don't have goods that have been produced commensurate with that money supply. And so that's why you have too much money chasing too few goods.
But I heard one criticism, if this money is sent out, would that be for falsely inflating money supply and
I'll take
more? Of course,
I'll take it anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, is that going to hurt the economy? Is that going to kind of spike inflation as well?
Well, I mean, conceivably it would. But I think what's happening also is that you've got people now who are spending money and buying actual products. And so companies are able then to hire more people. And so I think at the end of the day, even if what's happening is the affordability of the average American is increasing because less money is wasted and you put it back where it belongs. And so our ability to service debt is also going to improve. That's the other thing. And so,
which stimulates the economy and entrepreneurship and growth and jobs and all that other stuff.
And that's the rationale. And if you go back to Trump 1.0, that's exactly the thinking. Everybody was freaking out that with the tax cuts, you were going to have inflationary, and that's not what happened.
Well, let's finish this conversation, Karen. Let's talk about Kash Patel and now he's got his full cabinet and what happened there. And maybe take some questions from listeners. Thank you for joining us. Please share these conversations with people that you think may enjoy them, and hope you'll join us next week. Have a blessed weekend. Stay warm.
The preceding show was paid for by the LaHood Morton Law Group. The views and opinions expressed are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily represent those of WOAI and iHeartMedia.
This is News Radio 1200 WOAI San Antonio. The latest news, weather, and traffic from the GiveMeTheVin.com Celestial Car Studio.
Good Saturday morning. I'm Eric Lycom on News Radio 1200 WOAI. Israel confirming Hamas is now freed a sixth and final hostage as part of the ceasefire deal. Details coming up first. Traffic and weather together.
I've just been reading some of the comments that I haven't had a chance to look at, but on Facebook Live, there are some that are saying what I've heard so many other people say on the outside, and that is that Trump is about ready to take your Social Security, your Medicare, your Medicaid. And why do I keep hearing people talk about that?
Because it's worked.
Yeah, I mean, fear works. It's kind of the boogeyman argument. Look, I don't know if can anyone say for sure that's not going to happen? No, all you can say is Trump has said we're aware of these concerns, and that's not going to.
But he is going to take away Social Security benefits to those 200-year-old people that are on the books.
Look, I mean, have I seen the evidence that backs that up? All I know is more than one person has made the claim. And if this is, here's the question. If people, I mean, I heard someone actually go through the number of people, 110 to 120. They went by 9-year increments. And they went from 100 to 109, which there's not a lot of 100 to 109-year-olds.
No.
But then there was in the millions of 109 to 119-year-olds.
Yeah.
There was still in the millions 120 to 129. There was a shit ton of 130 to 139s. I mean, what are we talking about? Then there was 150s. There was 160s. There was in the 200s. There was one over 300.
I saw that. I was like,
now,
wait.
have I objectively seen that evidence? No. But these are bold claims. Yes, could the retort be they're lying, they're full of shit? Yes, I guess. At some point, someone's going to have to bring the receipts. So if, let's just big picture first before we dive in. If this is true, if there's literally millions of people receiving Social Security benefits that shouldn't be receiving them, and then you have to think about how many years have they been receiving them, who's getting this money?
Yeah.
Is that good to stop? Should we stop that?
Yes, absolutely.
I heard it was being repurposed to illegal immigrants, like Social Security numbers of people that died were being repurposed to illegal immigrants.
And one Social Security number was done like 100 times or 200 times.
I really think, maybe I'm foolish for checking it every day, but I go to Doge.gov and the receipts are there. I mean, but I mean, I don't want to defend an organization if I don't actually go and see what they're doing. And I'm all in. I'm all in on what they're doing. I think it's brilliant and it truly is transparent. So, I saw a rhetorical question. I can't remember who had asked. Do you really think there's that many over 100? Or what was it? Oh, you don't think these people shouldn't get Social Security benefits just because they're over 100? That's not what we're saying. No. We're saying is that they're not legitimately so. That's the problem.
Yeah, there's not 13 million of them either.
That's exactly right. And when you have this kind of money that isn't being managed, you lose track of it. And then all of a sudden, it's driving purposes that American taxpayer would never support. And it's not bringing back product. That's the problem. It's not bringing back value. And so that will have an inflationary effect. You asked an important question. Well, now that we're saving all this money, I mean, is that going to be inflationary in itself? Because now this money kind of gets back out into the system,
right,
if you will. And the reality is there's, again, very different between a dollar that doesn't produce anything or it doesn't come from anywhere, the old parachuting dollar, versus the dollar that's actually tied to something. If it's tied to something, then that money line and that goods line gets much closer together versus being disparate, which is what causes inflation. I don't have a problem with money. Nobody has a problem with money being out in society as much as possible, but we damn well better be producing something with it, and it better be generated from actual goods and services. It can't just be printed at the White House basement.
Ray said, and I know that this for a fact, Ray said, my mom passed on the 30th. She gets her check on the 3rd. And by the time they got to the bank with her death certificate, her Social Security check had already been pulled out of the account. So, if you die and they know you die because, it's part of government records, the money is taken out. So the fact that they say that there are people over 150 that are getting it, I mean, it's kind of sus, wouldn't you say?
What's sus mean?
Suspicious.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you were Gen
Sorry, I have kids that are Gen Z.
Gen C. But I mean, look, I mean, think about this. If this is truly happening, how long has this been happening? So if somebody, this is just me, the way my mind works. Let's say, for argument's sake, that somebody is not really alive, but is 150 getting Social Security checks. Did they get it when they were 110 and 112 and 112? Have they been getting these Social Security checks up until they were this fake 150? Think about that. That's I can't even think about the multiplication of that.
Oh,
right.
right.
The numbers get huge quickly, and you can see why we're in such debt. If that's true, if all this is true, how long has this been happening? Because I mean, it's like, oh, someone last year got paid at 152 and they're not even alive. Well, did they get paid at 151? Were they paid at 150? Did that one person, forget about the millions, was that one person paid at 149? And then do the math, and the multiplication is astronomical.
Yeah.
It'll blow your mind. And so that's what I want to know. Has this been going on this whole time, or did it just start now?
Or they just found that this was the easiest way to funnel money wherever.
I don't know. It's not a very good scheme, or maybe it is because people aren't looking into it. When you're paying out people that are 200 years old or 170 or 160, it's insane. Nobody lives that long. I want to know: is this a buildup? Has this been going on, or is this something that just kind of dropped, parachuted out of the sky? I haven't had anyone talk about that yet.
Right.
I mean, this is a dynamic that Musk has said has been going on for a long time.
That's what I'm saying. So
completely unchecked.
If dead person Fulano Jones is 152,
exactly
and he's getting a Social Security check, well, was dead person Fulano Jones getting that check at 151 and 150 and 149 and 148 and 147 and 146? Okay, so then do the math on that, and then multiply it by the millions of other people that are in the 130 to 139, 140 to 149. Have they all been, and then let's say they passed away at 72. Have they all been getting checks that long? Just let that sink in. That's crazy, the amount of money. No wonder we're in. If you just stop that gravy train of fraud, then, you probably fix the debt. I'm being a little bit facetious and hyperbolic, but you understand my point. The money, the numbers multiply very, very quickly in that type of analysis.
Well, remember last week we were talking about a forensic analyst that was sitting before Congress in a hearing and said that he thought it was more to the tune of about $1 trillion. I think we mentioned it was the Government Accountability Office that had reported during, and this is under Biden's administration, that they believe that we have about a $500 billion a year fraud problem. And then this guy comes in and says he thinks it's closer to $1 trillion a year. We collect about 4.7 trillion every single year, and we spend about closer to 7 trillion. That's why we're close to $2 trillion deficit every single year. So there's a lot of room in there, shall we say, for fungibility. And so we've got over 530 agencies, and you've got crisscrossing dollars. And all Musk is doing is he's simply bringing some structure and some order and some accountability and some traceability to these dollars. And you're right. When these start, when you're talking trillions, Nico, trillions. These numbers get big, and they get big quickly.
No, but there's millions of people in each category. It only started slowing down. I thought it was going to start slowing down
at the 200s, right?
Well, no shit. There's nobody over 200. But nobody's freaking out over the millions of 130-year-olds we have. That's insane. And there was even somebody, correct me if I'm wrong, over 300.
Yeah, there was.
There was like a handful over 300. I was like,
and that's why Musk said,
back in Genesis.
We've got a lot of we're back in Twilight. This is like vampire. We've got a bunch of vampires.
Here, I took a picture of it. I'll send it to you.
You wouldn't know that analogy because you haven't watched Twilight.
No, I don't know what that is.
There you go.
Be thankful you haven't.
All right.
It's a girl thing.
It's a girl thing.
You just called George a transgender.
Thank you.
Great.
Well, he has
I do.
a wife and about $100.
I know we got lots of Twilight fans in my home.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I just admitted I've watched Twilight. I've watched every single one.
And they're horrible.
That is correct.
Where'd you get this from?
No, actually, it was pretty good. I have to say, the graphics are pretty good even back to 2008, Jeff.
The baseball scene is the only good scene. That's it. And everything else is bad.
I knew it. I kind of like the end,
I
the
hate that y'all are
vampires, the
even
mask.
talking about this. I
don't
really
know what the hell you're talking about.
All right,
What
I
chart?
digress.
Yeah. What chart did you send me, Karen?
I took a screenshot
Of what?
of the ages and how
No,
many
but where'd
are
you get
collected.
this from?
I
'Cause
think
this
I
is what
got
I
it off
heard.
of X.
Okay, well then here it is. So
and it's just a
So it's
screenshot.
let's
from
just-
Doge.gov.
Yeah. Well, let's just start at. We can't. In 330 million people, we could have 6 million 90 to 90-year-olds, 99-year-olds. Okay, but then do we have 4,700,000 100 to 109-year-olds? Do we have 3.6 million 110 to 119-year-olds? Do we have 3.4 million? Not many of them are dying off. 130 to 139-year-olds? Not many more. Do we have 3.5 million 140 to 49-year-olds? Do we have 1.3 million?
It's ridiculous.
159-year-olds? Holy shit. And then it finally breaks off at of course, at 160. Why not? It goes from 1.3 million 159-year-olds in that range to 121,000 160-year-olds. We don't have one. Forget about 120,000 of them And then we go down to, and then we jump up at 220 to 229. We have 1,000 of those people. And thankfully, we only have 360-year-old. I mean, this is my point. But do the math on this. And then the continual payment out every year for all these people. I mean, I'm sure some brainiac in Trump and Elon's organization will do it, but
even if it was only $1,000 a month.
But he explains how he got to that. And there's a Treasury account code. It's called a Treasury account symbol. And that Treasury account symbol is a tracking code. And it associates payments with specific budget line items. So it's not just Social Security, it's everything. And that's how it's traceable. And what he said is that we've got, and I want to get back to this number because it's important.
Okay.
We collect about 5 trillion a year. We spend about 7 trillion. And what Musk said, he's sort of adding, fuel to the fire. He comes and says, well, the problem is that I'm seeing a missing payment code for about $4.7 trillion worth of Treasury payments. What? That's his number. So, and I'm thinking to myself, how does that work exactly? We spend, or we collect about 4.7 trillion every year. He's saying it's almost impossible to trace. We're missing this payment code. We've got a traceability problem.
Why is this a bad thing? What's going on here?
I still can't understand that.
I mean, what we do, whether we're prosecuting a case or defending a case on a white collar case, when you have a financial allegation and fiduciary and fiscal issue, you do forensic accounting. You trace money. Because if you're funneling money through an organization, a criminal organization, or if you're gaining ill gains, or if you're stealing money and you're trying to do it under facade, or you're trying to pay someone under the table, and you have to present it like it's a legitimate business, but you're really having them refer you cases, and then they're doing this and they're paying you money on the back end. They're paying you for something else, but they're overpaying for this, and really this is the reason behind it. So I'm just trying to simplify it in a second, but I mean there's a forensic accounting of where you follow the money and then you follow the scheme set up to justify the money that shouldn't have been paid in the first place. Mm-hmm. That's what's going on here. This is like a forensic accounting on steroids with the most with the most successful businessman in the world that has a shit ton of smart people with him. They're not running anything. They're not making any decisions. They're a presidential advisor. So if you're going to criticize, man, you have every right to. Just please bring evidence and I'll listen. And if I'm wrong, or if I'm just ignorant and you lead me down a path that's truthful and objective, I'm going to follow the truth and the objectivity.
But he's being transparent about what he's doing and with whom he's talking.
Well, they're the ones up. If I'm being cynical, I'm critical. Sorry, not cynical. Yeah, is it cynical? Yeah. I mean, if I'm asking questions, they're the ones uploading the information. So we just got to take it at face value, and then I'm sure there's going to be a process of analyzing. I mean, people make claims, and then you have a jury trial where you enter the evidence into the record. That's all I'm saying.
You're right. It would be a breathtaking heist to be literally be putting things up on screen. I mean, that is the height of fraud. I mean, this guy, he would be ruined.
I think it's very, very low probability, but I'm just trying to be objective.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm trying to meet the detractor where they're at. All I'm saying is this, and this is only a number of departments. This is U.S. aid. And can you imagine when they get to the Department of whatever?
No, that's what they're saying.
Military complex.
They're saying that payment
Nobody's
code.
Off the table.
The problem is a systemic design failure that encouraged fraud because the payment code is optional. So in other words, when you put in your payment code, it's optional. Now he says we already changed that. Now it's mandatory. You actually have to say where it's going to go so we can actually trace it. He said he's had meetings with the Federal Reserve, with Department of Treasury, and Doge representatives to come up with system improvements. And I mean, look, one of the ones that caught my eye is he said, look, we have made a recommendation, and they're actually going to take them seriously, where the Treasury Department is no longer going to issue paper checks. Just that will save the Treasury about $750 million a year.
That's insane.
Why? Because it costs about, what did he say, $2.40.
That's so insane.
Instead of checks, what are they going to do?
It'll be
electronically.
It'll be electronic, yeah. And so he said,
he said, look, if they can put it in, they can take it out. I don't like it, man. I like, just give me a check or
Mark of the beast.
All right, so this comes down to Nico LaHood then. This is the problem, right? Nico LaHood is an impediment to progress. I'm just kidding. Look,
probably, yeah.
How many Nico LaHoods? Let's do some math. Got your calculator? No, I mean, but these are practical things that they can do. And he's identifying them one by one by one. This crap adds up. And this is just the first month. Taking the man at face value, unless he's literally putting up BS on this website, the cost of which to him would be astronomical.
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind I'm just talking money, but the legalities of it would be insane. And by the way, there's not been a single person who's legitimately come back and say, hey, that's a fraudulent document. Not one press, and they're motivated to do that.
No, you're right.
Not one person has done that. So I'm just saying, in the first month, they're just getting started. If the $55 billion figure is to be believed, $650 billion a year, he's not going to hit his $2 trillion mark by July 4th of 2026, but he's going to get damn close. Especially if he's saving more. And all I'm saying is with $4.7 trillion worth of treasury payments that are missing a payment code, that's a lot of moolah, man.
But then how does Trump get there if he cuts out taxes? Then isn't that some of the talk too, that he's going to
get rid of the income tax?
Get rid of the income tax?
Oh, are you saying oh no, are you kidding me? I mean, look at Trump 1.0. What Trump is saying is that when you cut taxes, you actually increase the revenue to the United States government. You don't decrease it.
Cutting
You
the
increase
federal income tax.
He's talking about cutting the federal income tax altogether.
Oh, through tariffs. So he wants to go back to an old tariff system, which is
so then you have more money at home, but you're going to pay for more at the goods.
You're collecting it.
So the iPhone, the glasses, the bottled water, the eggs, the avocados for the football games that Schumer said. So all that's going to be more expensive, but you're not paying income tax. You're going to have more money to pay for
or
it. Or
it'll stay the same. It's not going to be more expensive,
well, no, it's going to be more because if you have tariffs inherently raise money.
Not unless we make the goods.
Huh?
Not unless we make the goods.
But that won't be immediate.
But we're not going to make all the goods.
Right.
So
that's not going to happen.
What's not going to happen?
Because the problem.
What's not going to happen, Dad?
This idea that it's going to be more expensive, and let me push back just a little bit.
Hold on, just so we're on the same page. So income tax has been stopped. So he gets rid of income tax, and he has tariff tax, right? I mean, other countries are going to pay our income. The country, am I correct?
Taxes.
I'm separating those two just for the sake of argument.
But you're saying that goods are not going to increase in value in price?
What I'm saying is that right now, American companies are getting taxed twice. And what Trump is simply saying is he's going to tax them the same thing. So, and if they increase what they're already charging us, then he's going to do 50 and 100% and 150%. I mean, he's already said that. So it's not in their best interest to increase the tariffs beyond what they're charging right now. And Trump is simply going to meet them at their level. So I don't know why that would.
You lost me on this. I'm sorry, George.
Well, because if you're earning that revenue, and Trump is putting that revenue back into the pocket of the American taxpayer, which is what Biden didn't do.
So where do we collect the $4.7 trillion from? From income tax?
From taxes right now. That's correct.
Okay, so $4.7 trillion is gone. Mm-hmm. So you're saying that we're going to get $4 trillion from tariffs?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, you'd have to.
You have. That's my point.
What he's saying. Yeah, but that's what he's saying.
So that $4.7 trillion goes into tariffs. Then the people that are paying those tariffs offset that by the cost of their goods. We pay the cost of the goods. So you're saying cost of goods are not going to go up? You're not saying that.
Well, what about your revenue curve?
Well, I answer my question first. Are cost of goods going up?
Yes.
Okay, that's what
I know, but they're going to offset. So
offset because we're going to have more
money
income
in your
at home.
pocket. Okay,
that's all I said. Okay, that's what you're saying.
Okay. If Apple, for example, is making their iPhones in India or China, and Trump made a deal with them, hey, come back to America, make your iPhones here. The iPhones will become probably more expensive, but you guys are saying we're going to have more money in the
pocket.
pocket.
I'm not saying that's the theory. I'm asking. Yeah.
No, this is what ultimately happens here is the currency discussion. The value of the dollar goes up. As the value of the dollar goes up, your purchasing power goes up astronomically. So you're right. I do expect certain things to go up in cost. But what Trump is saying, let's talk about the other side of the curve. Where you have more money, you have much more purchasing power. So quite frankly, it doesn't come out of
money at home to purchase with. Okay, that's all. That's what I said at the beginning.
But it does come back. It's a current. It becomes the power of the strength of the currency then.
And then so then if that happens, to Jeff's point, if that happens and we make all of our $4.7 trillion that we need to run this country, which we should need that much to run it,
right,
is from tariffs, then we have no motivation to bring business back. Because we need to tariff people on the outside. Are you going to tariff the people inside the country?
I think what he's saying is that he wants American companies making American products and hiring Americans. Yeah. That's what he wants. He wants more. It's an employment argument at that point. You're bringing companies back and you want people employed here.
But you don't tariff someone that builds their product in the country.
No, they're not even going to get
That's correct.
You can't tariff them. So you have to tax the company higher. So you have to replace that tariff. Since Apple came back to Jeff's point, Apple brings their manufacturing plant from India back to the States. Now you can't tariff that. And then now you have to tax Apple company here, correct?
Trump has said if you actually build a facility here in the United States, that
you're not going
to get taxed.
I know, but money doesn't come off. I mean, we need $4 trillion to run
you're
this
just
country.
asking math versus policy.
I'm just asking math. Yeah.
Okay. So I think the offset is. Sorry,
ahead.
I think the offset is you're gonna not get taxed to make it here, so you'll save money. Apple, the company, you'll save money by not getting taxed. And then if you want to increase the price of your iPhone $100 or $200, that's gonna make up in the.
Okay, but if they're not getting taxed to come here, then how is the United States making money? They gotta make money. You gotta pay for the ships and the battleships and all the departments and all the federal workers and the border and all that stuff. You got to replace that income somewhere. If we're not paying taxes, the American citizen, where's the money coming from?
Okay, let me back up a second here. We have the biggest market in the world, right? And so companies want access to this market.
Sure.
All right. So if they want access to this market, I mean, not every company. These are American companies we want to repatriate.
Right.
Okay, there's plenty of other companies across the world that belong to other countries. The point is there's plenty of shipments into this market, and that's not going to stop.
Okay.
Americans want what they want, and they're willing to pay for it.
Got it.
So
Okay.
Trump is simply saying, look, I want to increase your purchasing power. We need to shore up the value of the dollar, and we do that when we have all these fake effing dollars floating around. We actually have real dollars backed up by real goods. Value of the dollar goes up. Fantastic. We've got people that are trying to get access into our market right now. That's not going to stop. We got thousands of companies offshore who are their companies, other nations, who want access to this. We are going to tariff them, and we're going to charge them for access to this market because there isn't some other comparable market where they can go. This is it. And as Americans get wealthier, we are also the only ones who can afford that shit. So I think it's meant to be a closed system in that way. The math has to work out. I don't know anyone's actually run the math on this, but conceptually, it seems to me it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, my mind works differently. So that's what I said at the beginning. So you're saying that if we cut off the income tax of the citizen, then there has to be income coming from somewhere. So it comes from tariffs,
without question.
And so we're going to continue to tariff foreign manufacturers and all those goods that are coming here because there's plenty of people that want to bring their goods here because we have the market for
access to the market.
Then they're going to raise their product. But the argument is, I'm not saying it's your argument per se, but the argument is that if this phone costs more money, you have more money at home because you're not paying income tax to pay for this this higher phone.
Who's going to raise prices?
The phone company that's selling the phone because they have to offset that tariff.
Yeah, I'm still stuck where companies offshore are producing product, they're sending it over here, they're sending the product over here,
and it gets tariffed.
Correct.
So now their product, their price for product goes up. Instead of it costing the widget costs $1. Now it costs them $2 because of the tariff.
Yeah, I'm not.
So they still want to keep their profit margin of 50%. So they got to sell it for $4 instead of $3.
I get it. I realize conceptually it would work that way, but I think Trump is calling that bluff and saying, "Oh, really? I don't think so."
Wow.
So you lower. No, you're going to have to do more with less. That's the problem. Because the reality is they've been raping the country for decades in his view, right? And they shouldn't have been charging what they were charging at our cost. So and we like dumbasses have been stealing taxpayer dollars, squandering taxpayer dollars. And Trump said that stops. You want to raise tariffs? There's going to be a serious price for that. Or excuse me, you want to raise your costs? There's going to be serious price for that. Serious cost for that. So it'd be interesting to see because I don't know. It's a gamble.
I'm just fascinated by the idea. I'm just curious how it works out.
It'd be interesting to see where they say, "Okay, we'll suck it up."
Yeah, interesting. Well, is that price control? That's not a free market system, is it?
I think in effect it does become a price control, but it's not imposed as a price control. It's just Trump saying, "I'm not paying for that shit." You want to raise costs, you go right ahead, but there's going to be a cost for that too. You're going to get penalized X, Y, and Z. In other words, if you want access to our market, have access to our market on our terms. Yeah, it's got to work for you, but it's got to be on our terms. America first.
The idea of reciprocal tariffs makes sense to me. So the people, you know what that is, Karen?
Yeah.
So country A is tariffing, is doing a tariff of 20% on our goods, meaning our companies that are working hard, entrepreneurs, investors, people that are employing people, they're sending their widgets to another country, and they're being tariffed 15% on that. I'm just giving you numbers. But then we're not tariffing them back. So Trump said, "Look, I'm not gonna do 1 cent over or 1 cent under. It's going to be reciprocal, tit for tat, quid pro quo, something for something. The mutual assent to be bound based off fair trading practices, meaning that if you're going to tariff us 15, we're tariffing you 15. That seems fair.
Yeah.
That to me, I don't know. I don't understand the bitch session on that. That seems fair to me. Even though I was a finance major, I haven't worked in finance all these years. I went into law. And so I'm fascinated by the dynamics and how this works practically as it comes out. So
yeah, I think that's the argument that Nico's making. It's a legitimate argument. We just don't know. But does the math work? Now, conceptually, you would think it might. It might work or could work. I think conceptually it works, but no one's done the math on this.
This is the dumbest question. I did not major in finance, and I could barely,
Me either.
figure out my checkbook when I was in college. But okay, so I get the whole tariff thing. I get the reciprocal tariffs. I understand that the budget's going to be smaller because they're finding all of this waste.
It's not going to cost $4.7 trillion to run the country.
But where do we get the money for what we owe already? How
you have to spend more. You have to make more than you spend. I mean, so
no,
if
but
somebody,
as a country,
well, yeah, just think about your own. So not you, because I know you do things. Let's say you owe $100,000 in debt, the Dave Ramsey deal. So you told him, that's not a cheap commercial for him, but I've heard his theory.
Yeah.
I mean, so this debt snowball. Don't spend more than you make.
Right.
Know your budget. Know what you spend. Be deliberate.
So spend less, so we can give
spend
money
what you
toward.
need, not what you want to spend.
Okay.
Know what you do. Don't acquire more debt. Cut up your credit card, so to speak. Quit putting shit on debt. And then put your debts in alignment, and then attack the smallest debt and snowball into the biggest debt.
Okay.
But the bottom line, that system only works if you spend less than you make. So there's got to be a difference between what comes in and what is spent. That difference goes to debt. That goes to debt. And then if you allocate that, and then if you can increase what you make, and you can find ways to increase, but keep your expenses lower, then that difference is even bigger, and that can go towards debt.
What would we do without Doge? I'm serious.
We bankrupt eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, you asked an important question. Just to what's happening right now on the ground. For every dollar we earn, we're spending $1.21. So our debt to GDP is around therefore 121%. That's unsustainable.
Yeah.
So what Doge is doing speaks directly to that.
Okay.
And that's a lot of effing money. It really is. So I'm fascinated about math. I'm going to try to track this math as the idea flourishes or continues. I hope it continues, because ultimately we have to look at, and I think this is what you are getting at, and I don't know what the number is, but how much are we bringing in, and how much are we bringing in terms of tariffs? Because we know what we're bringing in terms of taxes. So how many, not tariffs, excuse me, how much in terms of imports? What's our total imports? And I thought imports were right around 4 trillion, somewhere around there, total imports. That's a lot of money. So if the imports aren't there, then that's a problem, isn't it?
So nothing can replace that.
So then you'd have to say, okay, you can renegotiate those arrangements and buy more. If Americans have more money, they can afford more.
Yeah.
So conceivably, that's why I'm saying conceptually, it seems to me to make sense. But yeah, you got to get a calculator to make this work.
Okay.
And that'll be fun.
What about he floated the idea of basically negotiating with China because of all the national debt that we have with China, because they unleashed COVID on the world and they caused all this economic damage, that basically he would negotiate or try to say, hey, we don't owe you this much. Sorry. You did a lot of damage. What do y'all...
Restitution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think that's fair. If you, any criminal allegation, if someone is a plea bargain, or if there's some type of theft or misappropriation or fiduciary responsibility, there's always a restitution. And restitution is justice. It's not revenge. There's 4 aspects to justice, right? There's revenge, restitution, restorative, and punitive. Now, punitive is to discourage future behavior. So restitution and punitive kind of go hand in hand. But when it's purely just punitive, you don't have restoration and you don't have a good relationship with somebody or some entity or some country. So I'm fine with that, to be honest with you. Look, we owe you this much money. Let's keep that separate. We owe you this. You owe us this. You want to work it out. I don't like to negotiate, because if you legitimately owe that money, I owe it on its own. I think that needs to stand. This is my humble opinion. It needs to stand by itself. But guess what? What stands by itself also is that you did this shit to our country, and people are dead. And what value do you put on that? Now, China's never going to admit to it. So what due process system do you have in place where countries disagree? You make some type of a judgment. You make a self-assessment. I don't owe you this money anymore. It's like the mobster that says, Hey, I'm going to go in business with you. Loan me some money. Okay, I loan you some money. And then, what's the VIG? What's the percentage? Okay, yeah. I don't owe you that money anymore. Yeah, you do. No, I don't want to do it. I guess you don't owe me that money anymore. Either that or you're going to owe me a box where I'm going to be put in at the bottom of the sea. So, I mean, that's where it goes. I mean, if you don't have some system in place, and that's why our justice system, based off fundamental fair play, which is a constitutional principle of due process, where Lady Justice wears the blindfold, I mean, that doesn't happen in international affairs. They don't have a constitution per se. So, I mean, that's interesting to me, Jeff, but that's an idea that if I was negotiating with Trump, there's got to be some restitution for what China did. Now, they're not going to agree to it. So then now what? Play this shit out. Now what happens? And then how do you use that to negotiate what you owe? But the bottom line is you got to get off the teat and you got to stop needing China to fund stuff. And that's why this is so important because you're dependent. It's like you're dependent on this and you can't get off it.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Oh,
that's
sorry,
it.
George.
No, that's
George.
it. That's the crux. That's the crux of the issue. As long if you need your enemy, you got a problem, and we have. And again, this is how the Ukraine-China. Notice that China is conspicuously absent from all this.
You're
and that's very deliberate.
Right.
That's very deliberate. And this, stay the fuck out. You're irrelevant.
Is that what they said?
No. China really wanted to be part of this. They wanted to offer. They wanted to be a mediator. And Trump's like,
get the heck out of here.
You must be joking. Seriously. So China's irrelevant. They're invisible. Deliberately so. The semiconductor thing is really important because that's what ties to these rare mineral deals in Ukraine. This is a big deal. The vast majority of semiconductor business is owned or controlled by China. That's a problem. We need this for iPhones and smartphones and laptops and computers and electronic devices. That's the way of the future. It's not going in reverse. It's only going and for China to have that kind of control, that kind of chokehold on that industry, and for Trump to say, "Hey, let's get into a deal with Ukraine. This is like you said, a huge security benefit for them because now their joint venture partner, right, can actually go to bat for them against the nemesis Russia." That's fantastic. It's not a direct security arrangement, but it kind of is. And then for us, we got to fill that $200 billion hole. And by the way, this is important. They got to pay past expenses, but this is going to continue in the future. And that's a death knell against China, it seems to me.
What is the latest with Greenland?
We're just going to invade it.
I want to know who's on the Epstein list. Who's on the Epstein list?
Diddy is on it.
I want to know who's on the Epstein list. It's on
Tom
Pam
Hanks.
Bondi's. It's on Pam Bondi's desk.
Do you think
supposedly.
anybody?
You jest, but that's remains very much part of the strategy.
What is it?
To hold
to
that
be able
list?
to mine minerals, in oil and natural gas.
She thought you were talking about the.
I thought
has
them
gone
not giving
anywhere.
it.
It's not going anywhere. And just here in the United States, for me personally, I'm pumped about that. The idea that technically we don't really need all this shit out there. We are sitting on a vast, almost infinite amount of natural gas and oil deposits here. The problem is we got to get more refineries.
Nobody
on board,
that
man. If we could just refine that shit fast
discussed defending Biden or the Democrats' ideology can defend that. Why would we want to make ourselves dependent on a foreign?
I don't
especially an
know.
enemy? That makes as an idea. Forget about who's. Again, I really try to pull people away, and it's hard to get off that tribe and the label and all this shit. I mean, there's people. Someone sent me. I have my criticism of Dan Crenshaw, but he actually did a good. I just watched it. I got up early this morning because I was behind this week, like I told you, and I saw some videos that were sent to me. Piers Morgan.
Yep.
I haven't seen it.
And who's that dude? He looks Middle Eastern. The guy in the middle that just hates Trump.
Yes, I forgot his name.
Yeah,
that book, Get Back to Your Country. Or
yeah,
whatever.
he had that book.
Yeah.
There you go. So you're on the same thing with me. But Dan, I thought Dan did a good job. The little that I saw, I couldn't watch the whole thing. Defending. Let's just pause a little bit. Look, Trump's 1 month in. He's done a lot of stuff. I get it. You don't like all the stuff he's doing. But you can either go Carville, who says, look, he's going to implode, which is a shitty strategy. I mean, that's all you have, Democrats, is just wait for Trump to implode. What positive do you have? What counter narrative do you have other than Trump is bad, Trump is evil, and Trump's going to implode?
And eggs are expensive.
Yeah, but Carville's also saying, surely Democrats can't be this stupid. It must be sabotage. And it's like, and a bunch of people wrote after that. No, they actually are that stupid. They're actually getting in their own way. I don't know, man. I'm kind of
just let's see what happens. Look, those first 100 days are critical. And so just see what let it happen.
We're 30 days in.
You gave me this sort of blue balls moment here. If you'll excuse it. Well, I mean, you asked an important question. You said, why would they want that? What kind of? Because they're fucking communists. That's why. And the week that you said, why would Democrats want us to be dependent?
You know, why?
No, I'm talking about the citizen, not the political operative. I'm talking about the citizen that I'm debating. They're not communists. I mean, they're just. Well, I mean,
okay.
Ignorant.
You're right. They're not communists, but there's enough of them. I mean,
I just think it goes to show the mindset. Look, and this happens on both sides. I get it. You know, Republicans can't do anything wrong. Democrats can't do anything right. Republicans can't do anything right. Democrats can't do anything wrong. I really encourage people to engage in ideas.
I want to build a little bit on what you said, because look at who's running the Democratic National Committee. The DNC. I mean, look at who they elected for leadership.
I saw that.
I mean, they haven't changed one damn bit.
It was awful.
Look at who's leading the narrative on Capitol Hill. At the end of the day, the left still has control of the Democrat Party. That's why they aren't going anywhere. They're crazy. And there's a significant constituency in the United States that think that's a good idea. And obviously, not every Democrat. There's plenty of Democrats that Trump peeled off who are still sane and thinking lucidly and love their country. I buy that. But there's way too many of these crazy effing people. Way too many of them. So the weaker America is, the more debased America is, the better. And whatever it takes to get there. I think that's alive and well. And these people must be politically crushed. We need to make sure these people do not win an election in a very, very long time. Never would be too short. I mean, seriously. And I hope Trump. And
that's why I think that's why this inflation issue is so important.
Yeah.
It really is.
Gosh, yeah.
And look, we didn't talk about it on the show, but because I know we just have a few more minutes. But I mean, Kash Patel made it over the finish line.
Love it.
And McConnell voted for him, as McConnell said he's not running again. Thank God.
Really? Oh, good.
Just go with Biden on a beach, sit in the chair. I mean, I don't wish harm on him, but he needs
to go.
Liked McConnell. No, man, he needs to go.
No,
he needs to go. Good, thank God. But Kash, I mean, that's gonna. Let's see what happens. Look,
and his comments were fantastic.
Yeah, the FBI has been a very interesting organization over the years. Let's just put it that way. And it needs overhaul. There's people that say it needs to be dismantled, all that stuff. Okay, I mean, I'll listen to those arguments. You can back it up, but you know, I am welcoming this new mindset from AG Bondi and from Kash. So let's see what happens. Again, here's the rope. Trump worked hard for it. Everyone worked hard for it. Now what do we do with it? And so I'm hoping that things go the way that it needs to go, from inflation to all these different organizations, from Doge to the border, 95% decrease in illegal border crossings. It's insane. So that tells you a lot right there. Man. So let's see. Look, I mean, 100 days it's going to come here quick, and then 2 years is going to be here even quicker.
And you're right. I mean, and the amount of money saved and the stability factor of the country and the deportations this is summary deportations. Bye. What was the numbers they gave? The Border Patrol actually spoke on this, right?
I didn't get the number though. But they're down.
It was like you said. You're right. It was like 94, 95%.
It was 94% reduction.
There's more.
I think they said it was. I think the apprehensions this month was 285.
But that tells you things. Look,
versus 5,000.
Where's the accountability for the administration, the Democrats, Mayorgas, who was saying the border is secure? That was a lie.
Right.
That was an absolute lie. There's people that lied about that.
Absolutely.
And so this is why I think I sense from Karen the discouragement that, gosh, people are that fickle. That in 1 month, if things don't change, but everyone's like that. Republicans, people are like, that's the human nature.
Yeah.
That we want that microwave mentality. Things happen now. I want to take a pill, flip a light switch, do something. Fast cars, fast taxes, fast women, whatever the hell. I mean, that's just, people think that way in the flesh. And
people are in pain though. I mean, they really.
I know, brother.
Tell me about it. I get it.
People are really hurting right now.
But what I'm saying is, what are you going to do? Go back to the ideology and the mindset that
I have high hopes.
Exactly. They put you there.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean,
I
have high hopes.
I'm hoping that, and I know Trump's on it. I'm sure he is, and his team. I've been impressed with overall with his team, and I'm excited to see what Kash is.
It's just a vulnerability. I think that because people are being hurt by it, and he's sensitive to that, and so politically. I think even though they're extending him grace right now, I think that's a vulnerability for him. And I don't think it's obviously not a situation he created, but it's just a reality and he needs to be very sensitive to it. The cool thing is he's being dogged about it, man. He is on it. And so I'm optimistic. I work in an industry where I will definitely benefit from lower inflation. I will definitely benefit from lower interest rates. We definitely need some relief. But I'm excited about that. I mean, again, the stronger the dollar gets, the better our ability to service debt.
Well,
right.
As we wrap up, any questions or comments?
No,
we can
I have
respond to?
one comment. Who was it? Was it the governor of Maine that President Trump said, "I'll see you in court"? Like, was she so dumb to like actually take on President Trump like face to face? I don't. Like,
Well,
people
executive
still
order,
don't believe.
Let's be objective. Let's analyze this. So, Trump's having a governor's meeting, a dinner. He's talking about executive orders. The clip that I saw, he's talking about the trans executive order where biological male cannot, and really preserving Title IX. That's exactly right. The preservation of Title IX, which Democrats used to be all for, by the way.
Right.
And he says there's, all governors are on board except for Maine. Is Maine here? Is Maine? Did he not know Maine was there? I'm sure they gave him a briefing to hear the governors. I don't know. Was he playing coy? Who knows? And then she goes, I'm right here. He's like, you're not gonna do it. And then he has this conversation in public, and so he that was his style. I mean, people can criticize that he shouldn't have done it. It was disrespectful and all this. Well, I mean,
what she's doing is equally disrespectful.
I don't know if it's disrespect. It's I don't know what it is.
Defiant.
Yeah, it's defiant, but it's also not just to preserve women in their sports. I mean, and she's a woman, by the way, presumably. And so, and then they go in this exchange, and look, even a doe, I always tell people, you put a doe in a corner, they're going to come out with their heels kicking.
Right.
And so,
that is so funny.
If that's what Trump wanted to do, then he got it. I think optics. I think his critics are going to criticize him for, why did you call? You're the one that started it. And then the response is, well, no, she started it by defying an executive order.
Right.
And she was there. And he says, are you going to do it? No, I'm not going to do it. Then you don't get any federal funding.
But, okay, that's the issue here. It ties to funding over which he has purview.
Yeah.
And he said, look, we are not going to fund a public institution if you're going to, in fact, violate Title IX.
Yeah.
And no, men aren't women. And women aren't men. And that's actually our policy. There are two sexes. Shouldn't be controversial. Never has been. But it is because we got lunatics running Maine. And so she decided that, who gives a shit? Typical left-wing approach. I'll just do whatever it is I want to do because authority doesn't matter to me. And so, yes, she actually started the issue. Mm-hmm. And so I think back to Rubio doctrine here as it pertains to Trump. I love hearing Rubio because their campaign exchange in 2016, those two. I love Rubio basically being an apologist for Trump's style, interestingly enough, because that's how I read that in that interview with Catherine Heritage. He actually said, what did Zelenskyy think Donald Trump was going to do?
Right.
I mean,
Rubio.
Trump, this president. I mean, this guy's transparent. He's going to tell you what he's
not bluffing.
It's like, dude, you should know something about that, right? Remember the water?
Absolutely. He is ruthless but funny.
So Rubio is very equipped to talk about this. So sure enough, this Maine governor does that, and everybody's wondering, hey, Chica, what did you think?
Right.
What did you think was going to happen? Like your analogy, even a doe.
Her mistake was,
I love that. I love that.
Her mistake was saying we're gonna comply with state and federal law,
and he says we're the federal.
Right. So if you just dug,
and then she's like, well, I guess we just gonna have to take it to court. Yeah, we are gonna take it to court, and I feel sorry for you.
In court.
Yeah, so I look, that's just a stylistic thing. I'm not worried about that. Look, people,
I love that, though.
You get what you get with people. I mean, Biden has his style. Biden's style was
walking away and laughing.
Well, not just that was more of an approach.
Sleeping.
Yeah.
The style was like, don't like this this faux toughness. Don't. And he was really going off the toughness of the American kind of persona of years past. It wasn't under Biden. Don't. There wasn't a don't that people didn't do. Every don't was a do for our enemies.
Come on, man.
So
and by the way,
Trump style is Trump style, and let's see if it works out for him.
He was going to sit corn pop on him.
I think it's effective.
But he's doing this less and less. I mean, he's being much more surgical about when he brings out Trump 1.0, because that's Trump 1.0. I mean, you go to the dirt in a second, and all of a sudden you got mud all over your face. That's Trump 1.0,
Right.
and he's doing it much more judicially. The Zelenskyy thing, if you poke the bear, he's coming. And
yeah, but I think he can do it the way he's doing it, to be honest with you, because he's very transparent, because he's doing a press conference every day
and on issues that people are decidedly on his side.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it seems like it's more strategic.
Mm-hmm.
Seems I'm not going to try to get inside his brain, but it seems like it's more.
Do you think he also has the luxury of really having pushed Democrats into a position where they're defending the indefensible? The idea that Democrats would defend
this is a
frivolously
70-30
wasting
issue.
trillions of dollars, like he's got that going for him. That's kind of a big deal. So defend that. Defend the notion that men are women and women are men. That's a great winning issue. Keep it up.
What's a 70-30 issue? I mean, I think literally it's a 70-30 issue.
Yes.
It's a 70. So, I mean, that's one. Now, is that the issue for people? Obviously not. It's the economy. It was the economy, border, and then something like this. So let's see what happens. Anything else, Karen?
Is it Schumer that's the most afraid of Patel, or is it what's her name?
Pelosi.
Ah, yes, Pelosi.
Do you guys think if we drill and export oil, that will help offset the 4.7 trillion that we collect in federal income tax?
I think we're going to be awash in money.
That's
what I
good.
think. We're going to be awash in money. I think 4.7 trillion is going to be the least of our concerns. We're going to be awash.
I hope. Let's see what happens. Well, guys,
if this man can do what he wants to do, let him do what he wants to do.
Let's see what happens. All right, guys, thanks for joining in. Hope you enjoyed the conversations as much as we have enjoy having them. And like we always say, share this with someone you think may benefit from it. Thank you for your comments. Please comment. We'll try to respond to them as much as we can. Give us, I'm not going to say give us ideas of topics. I was thinking of R-rated Christianity. Because, I mean, shit, who knows what's going to happen next week.
Tune in on Wednesday.
But we'll be there Wednesday for R-rated Christianity. And then again next weekend. Hope you'll join us. Have a blessed week. Bye-bye.